Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. And right at the start, I just want to thank everybody for the support on the video and towards the channel. It really means a lot to me. The videos have been doing really well lately, and it's all thanks to you guys liking, commenting, and subscribing to the channel. It really makes a difference here. So today I wanted to talk about some changes coming to the game. We had a roadmap update, so we now have an idea of the features that are kind of tentatively assigned to patch 323. And I wanted to go over some of the major features that are kind of creating a buzz and it's still in the community. There are a lot of opinions about it, but we don't entirely know everything about these features yet. I assume that CIG is going to explain more on future ISCs and Inside Sauce Citizen episodes. So right now, what we really only have to go off of is the features that are being announced to be added to 323. Okay. So we have some things that we kind of know about that there's not really a whole lot to talk about. Of course, the replication layer. This was slated initially for 321, and then it got pushed to 322, and now it's in 323. And if any of you guys have really interacted with the replication layer tests recently, it's kind of a good thing that it wasn't added in 321 or 322. It does work. I have tested it a little bit. The server recovery side of things as well just takes kind of a long time for players to kind of get back in game. At this point, I think maybe they want to shorten that time that it takes to get back in game. But yeah, ultimately it was a good and productive test. I think CIG learned a lot about it, and they're trying to get it out in this patch. The next thing is kind of Arena Commander changes, gravlev racing. This is kind of slated actually for this patch 322. It's supposed to be like a .x patch, and I believe that is on PTU right now, so you guys can get into PTU and test out some of these racetracks. This is a good addition. I believe we will continue to get more racetracks, different star systems as well, not just Stanton, and be able to test out different things. Hopefully they add ground vehicle tracks as well. I know they're also talking about a foot race. Then of course the star map rework. This is slated for 323. This is going to be a huge rework for the game. Right now the star map is very difficult to use. It is very buggy. The main issue is really when you're trying to zoom in and navigate around the map. There are different parts of it that just completely disappear or vanish, preventing you from doing what you want to do. Also, certain markers don't appear for whatever reason. So it is just kind of a very buggy experience. I mean, honestly, if they were able to get the current star map working, it would be usable. But the problem is that it is very broken. So instead of trying to fix it, they've decided to completely scrap it, and they are making a new one with more technology. Okay, so it's new and improved, with better visibility, okay, including search features and trip planning functionality. So essentially you'll be able to say take me to Houston, or you'll be able to type in you want Houston. The map will go to Houston and give you that route, and it'll probably tell you how much fuel it's going to take, and how long it's going to take to get there and all that. And then you can fly there. It's going to be a much easier system. I'm excited to hear more about it on ISC. Then there is this mobiglass rework. It is adding the building block system to mobiglass so that they can build apps in the future, because the mobiglass was always designed for them to be able to add in new UI elements, interfaces, applications that the players can engage with without going to a kiosk per se. So presumably there will be, different mobiglass apps for you to manage, things like medical, things like insurance, things like, if you run a shop or something like that, you might be able to, better manage the services that you provide to other players. The list of apps that CIG could make for the mobiglass is honestly endless. And I think that this is a much needed rework. Adding it to the building blocks is just gonna make it easier for them to build apps for this part, It includes a rework to the home, the contacts manager, and the journal apps. But of course, they've also talked a little bit about adding a shopping app. And again, this makes a lot of sense. Right now, you have to go to the physical location to buy any items. It would be very convenient if you could, shop online on your mobiglass and then have those items delivered to your home location, and then you just, bring up those items. Then we have FPS map system. This is your HUD map. This is the map that shows up in your helmet, in your lens. I know a lot of people kind of asked about, how are we seeing UI elements with our helmet off? Well, CIG also hinted at, possibly creating a system where, you have this contact lens that can display a lot of this stuff for when you're not wearing a helmet. Again, I don't know. They haven't really talked about that feature being added to the game in a long time, but I presume that is their intention to eventually have like a secondary item that is like the mobiglass that you can equip, that is a lens that will allow you to see different UI elements when you're not wearing a helmet. Again, I believe this is their solution for that issue. But the map system is going to be huge. It's going to show you the interiors of your ships, certain landing zones and whatnot. Yeah, it's going to be a big deal for FPS gameplay. Then we have personal and instance hangars. This is absolutely huge. So this is creating the tech that allows players to have an instance hangar when they go to spaceport. So essentially, you will call ATC, and they will assign to you an instance hangar. The hangar doors will open. You will land in the hangar. Then the hangar doors will close, and that hangar location will disappear from the persistent universe, and you'll be in a separate instance. This is kind of like how things works with the convention centers during IAE. When you go down into the elevators, the actual convention hall isn't physically in the persistent universe, and that's okay because there are no windows in the convention hall. Okay, so in the hangar, you will be in your own little instance, and some people have theorized the law reasoning behind this is maybe there's some huge mechanism that moves the hangars around inside of the building. Who knows? But realistically, it's a video game. It really doesn't matter that much to me. I just want to be able to, use it efficiently. And so with these instance hangars, you're going to be able to stay there for, a little bit longer instead of, having to worry about your ship being impounded in the same way. Obviously, if you're pad ramming or doing anything like that, your ship will be impounded. But if you land in the hangar, your ship will, be able to stay there and persist, and you'll have enough time to manage cargo and interact with the cargo kiosk and the cargo elevator. Okay, so this will have your inventory and vehicles. Okay, so at your home location, it seems like at your home location you will have a persistent hangar, and all other hangars will be fully instanced. Now I know some devs who've been talking about this are kind of hinting at the idea that they're kind of sort of all persistent. I think that this is kind of like a great functionality to the game. So yeah, it says here personal hangars are found at the player's home location and will allow for customization and organization in the hangar interior. Again, this is huge. A lot of us didn't really assume that this would be coming with the first iteration of this feature. But yeah, hopefully, again, we're not sure this is what is intended for the release, but nothing is confirmed yet. Everything is marked as tentative. But hopefully we'll be able to, leave different things around the hangar that we can have quick access to. We'll be able to, call up ground vehicles instead of going to outposts to get ground vehicles. We can just get our ground vehicles from these locations. And yeah, this will be a huge quality of life improvement to the game. Okay. Of course, that leads us right into freight elevators, implementation of this system and content for players to physically load and unload cargo from their ships by conveying cargo to and from hangars, landing pads, garages, and docking collars. Okay, so this is the added functionality of docking collars as well, which will be interesting. I don't know how they will implement that. Maybe as you go through the docking collar tunnel in that central area, there's probably like an offshoot, another room with a space that has access to that. I'm not entirely sure how they're going to do that. Of course, right now with landing zone garages, what you go to the terminal and you call your ground vehicle and it spawns in the garage, and this can result in some added friction. I know there are certain situations at the Microtech garages where I was waiting on other players who were calling a vehicle. This will be a little bit of a different situation. I don't entirely know how they're going to handle it, but we'll see. And then of course landing pads, we saw that in the last video. Landing pads at outposts do have this this additional area in the corner where there is a cargo elevator that brings up cargo directly to the landing pad. And there was a lot of speculation that this would be like a griefing hotspot and whatnot. Again, we'll have to see what CIG says more about this feature moving forward. There is a lot to cover with something like this. It's not that straightforward in my personal opinion, so I'm excited to see what the updates around that are. Okay, then we have the item bank and unique item recovery. This was one of the main things that I really wanted to talk about in this video. This is a very interesting new feature. So what is this really? What's going on here? So the item bank is essentially like the dispenser at security post Korea. It is a box that you will interact with that allows you to access your inventory outside cargo hangars. So basically the current inventory system that we have in the game, that's going away. And the only way to interact with your inventory is through the cargo elevator in the hangar. So CIG wanted to make an additional way for players to access their inventory without going to the spaceport or a hangar to do that. So basically, a good example of this is if you're at a landing zone, you wake up in the apartments, you want to go to IAE, for instance. You want to go to the convention, you want to wear your top hat and monocle or whatever fancy armor to show off. Instead of going to the spaceport and the hangar and calling that stuff up to the cargo elevator, you have the ability to go to one of these item banks and put on your gear before you go to the spaceport. So if you have any intention of maybe using the garages, the ground area to take out a ground vehicle and travel around the outside of this area, you don't have to go to the spaceport and then go to the surface entrance. So there are different reasons why a player would want to access the inventory outside of the hangar. But if you are gearing up to do a mission, you probably won't need to use the item banks. You could just go to you go to the spaceport, go to the hangar. And this really kind of ties into CIG's desire to make, to kind of separate when and where you wear certain things. Because right now you have just about everyone running around in armor. Moving forward, in cities, you're probably just going to be wearing more plain clothes, undersuits, and this type of thing. And when you get to the hangar, you gear up, and then you get in your ship and you leave. So you'll probably see more players walking around cities in regular clothes or undersuits and whatnot. And then when they get to the hangar, actually gear up for whatever mission they want to go out on. And again, this kind of ties into more that you see, certain dressing areas at spaceport. Yeah, they might have a kiosk in those areas. They might have a kiosk in the apartment, so right as you leave your apartment, you can come down and you can get ready. And this is just kind of like a holdover until we get building interiors. Okay, when we get building interiors and persistent apartments, we will probably have, a closet space or something like that that has parts of our inventory. Of course, we already have the posters, we'll be able to put up posters, and we'll be able to put up knickknacks and our trophies or whatever. Our armor sets will be in the closets and stuff like that. So there will be multiple ways of accessing our inventory, and we'll have different things from the game in different places around. So really and truly, if you're getting into what the physical asset that we're interacting with is, it's basically like a Covalex dispensary or the dispensary at Security Post Korea. It brings up a box that we can use to equip our character with, and because CIG really wants a more physicalized system, and right now the inventory system is you have this magical pane, and you can move stuff around between these magical UI elements, and CIG doesn't want that. They want everything to be physicalized. So this is the way that we're going to be able to access our inventory. Now, unique item recovery, what is that? So unique item recovery is our ability to recover account bound items. These are items like flare items for subscribers, and these are items that are like rewards, like the Vandal mask and the Halloween mask and things like that, and things like the free Christmas gifts that we get if you go out and you play Star Citizen. Star Citizen is a full loot game. That essentially means that when your player character dies, all the loot that is on that character is left there. So you essentially have to go back and reclaim your loot from your body. And so if you lose this, if your ship blows up or anything happens, what ends up happening is that some players end up losing their subscriber flare, their holiday flare, their Vandal mask, whatever, and players don't use these custom these more custom assets because they don't want to lose them. So CIG wants to create a system where players are more incentivized to use these items in game, because that's what they're intended to do. And so there is a concern from the player base that this could result in duping, where essentially a player goes out and they die or something like that, or they have their friend kill them. I don't know entirely how the system will work, but the concern is that players will infinitely spawn instances of this item, multiple instances of this item. And I don't necessarily think it's going to work like that. CIG has already put the kibosh on duping with the Drake Mule, so I honestly don't think they're going to implement a system that would allow you to dupe. So right off of the bat, I don't think that's a concern that the community should have. I don't think that's going to be the case at all. More than likely, they might use a system where once you reclaim that item at this kiosk, the older instance of that item disappears. There might be some type of system where there is an essentially a 24-hour timer. So you die, you lose the item, 24 hours passes, the old item despawns, and you can claim it in the kiosk. At the kiosk, there might be a longer cooldown timer for something like that. Maybe it's 5 days, maybe it's a gameplay session, maybe it's server based. I really don't know. I think a cooldown kind of makes sense, because that way if you're playing and you get in a firefight, let's say you're doing Siege of Orson or something like that, you die with a unique gun on you, like the Devastator shotgun. You drop the item, somebody else picks it up, they start shooting with it. You come back to the scene to reclaim the gun, and it's gone. Somebody already picked it up, someone already looted your body. Now there's a timer, so in 24 hours the next day, that item will despawn for that player, and you can reclaim it at this kiosk. I think that's a pretty simple system that will solve this problem, and there would be no duping. You'd still be able to pick up weapons. You'd still be able to loot other players that have subscriber flair on them, but it would still give players the ability who, if they bought subscriber flair or if they earned it, like the Vandal mask, they would still be able to reclaim those items. So I'm not too worried about duping. But I do think CIG is going to utilize a system like that for this. Okay, next thing we have here is new missions, cargo hauling. This is another big one that we talked about. I think that this is going to be huge, especially, 323 is turning out to really be the cargo patch. The new inventory is going to be huge. It's going to basically touch every aspect of this game. If I'm being perfectly honest with you, there are going to be some people who really like the old system with the move all and all of these things that CIG slowly added to that old system, which will just no longer be relevant at all. So there is going to be a learning curve with this new inventory. And I think with cargo missions, this kinds of opens the door up for smaller cargo haulers like the Hull A, like the Cutlass Black and whatnot. And I think that these missions are badly needed. And of course, when I talked about missions in the past, I basically stated that just about every gameplay loop needs a PvE mission attached to it, so that player has a gameplay loop, instead of like how refueling is right now, where it's like you really just have to wait on a player to get on Spectrum, get on Reddit, get on whatever Discord you're part of, and request your services as a refueler. But that doesn't have to be the case. If missions existed where you could refuel NPCs, then you would be using your Starfare right now. Right now, players would be using their Starfare if they were PvE missions. So the ultimate goal is to make all gameplay careers PvE based, PvP based. But in the interim, I think making these PvE missions gives players an introduction to this career, to this gameplay loop, that gives them the ability to learn and get better at it, rather than just throwing them into the fire. So cargo hauling missions will be huge. Then we have dynamic crosshair. A lot of people had issues with this potentially, being too gamified, but this is one of those things that will be relegated to combat helmets. CIG has said already that this is something that they want to do to amplify the usefulness of specific armor types and specific armor sets. So you will have this as a feature, as a part of certain helmets. It says right here, combat helmets now support the dynamic crosshair. Okay, so EVA Tier 2. This is the improved EVA controls and animations for smoother traversal in 0G. Later iterations will introduce limited EVA fuel and encourage the use of 0G push and pull. So 0G push and pull is your ability to kind of latch onto objects in space, and your character can essentially crawl along the surface. I believe that this is coming out later because CIG essentially has to go through and mark up all of the things that you can push and pull yourself through. Squadron 42 is a little bit easier because that is a closed loop game, so they will essentially have scenarios where the player might really need to kind of sneak around and grab onto the outer surfaces of objects, so they can mark up those objects, they can mark up those structures, and the player can pull themselves along. But in the persistent universe, I think it's a bit more complicated. Now again, I'm not a developer, I don't work at CIG, I don't know for sure if it's a system where they have to actually mark up all of the things that the player has to push and pull on. The exterior ships, the exterior stations and whatnot. I don't know if it's one of those things where CIG is gonna make it procedural so players can also interact with asteroids. It would be very cool if you can kind of crawl along the surface of asteroid. I know miners would use that feature a lot and place the mining gadgets. And then limited EVA fuel, it basically kind of balances how capable you are in space, and will encourage you to use push and pull. So I think limited EVA fuel and push and pull are more likely going to come at the same time. I think they could implement limited EVA fuel right now, but they're not, because basically if you ran out of fuel while EVAing, you just have to wait there and or call somebody to pick you up. So I think they want to wait until they have push and pull ready to go, and then they'll implement limited EVA fuel. So what we're getting right now is mostly animations, and I believe we're also getting momentum. So if you boost in a certain direction, you will continue moving in that direction until you make another input in another direction. So essentially, if you're moving forward, you essentially boost forward, and your player will be moving forward until you use another input. Okay. So I think yeah, this is mostly just going to be new animations and the way our player looks around while they're in EVA. Okay, and then we have the FPS loot screen. The reason why we have a dedicated FPS loot screen again is because the current inventory system is going to be going away, and we're getting a new inventory system. So they need to make a dedicated loot interface. Now, the way we saw it in ISC, they want to make this very interactive. So basically in the new interaction system, you can basically just interact with things directly. So if you go up to a body, you'll be able to, see the weapons that are on them, see the ammo magazines that are on them, and it's just something that you can do right now actually, and your character will just reach out and pick those things up. But to kind of speed up that procedure, because in an FPS situation, you know presumably enemies will be shooting at you, you want that to be kind of a fast experience. So there will be kind of a new loot screen, and it's introducing a new screen for looting critical items quickly, okay, allowing for more reliable inventory management in tense situations. This is really designed for those tense situations. So again, I don't entirely know how this is going to look and work. We saw a kind of a preview of it in the Squadron 42 showcase at CitizenCon, but they're going to have to rework certain things for the persistent universe. But we did see a sneak peek of it. Okay, then we have the new character customizer. Again, this was something that we saw at CitizenCon. We saw the Squadron 42 character customizer, and this is a very similar situation to that. So, it will overhaul the player character creator that we have now, and introduce a new interface with new customization options, new hair options, new character faces, facial hair, makeup. So you will be able to customize, more hair color options. I believe they also added in more eye color options, more, skin tone options. So you can have freckles and whatnot, stuff that you don't have currently. Okay, then we have the visor and lens HUD rework. So it's converting the visor and lens system to building blocks for improved performance and flexibility. So this lens system is kind of what I was talking about earlier, with this kind of contact lens that allows you to see various UI elements when you're not wearing your helmet. And so this is basically, your character's health and, how hungry they are. These elements can be seen by the player even when they're not wearing a helmet, and the kind of in-law reason to why the player is seeing these UI elements is because they have an implant and they have a lens that is communicating with that implant to give them data on how their body is doing. Then we have distribution centers. Okay, I'm telling you guys, this is going to be an absolutely massive patch for the game. I mean, just look at all of the features that are coming out in one patch alone. It's incredible. Okay, so distribution centers are going to be huge mission locations. These are not going to be directly related to the UGFs that we have now. UGF we have now are good mission locations, but they're kind of limited in the scope of gameplay that can, happen there. Distribution centers are a completely different story. There will be some combat dedicated distribution centers. There will be some, fetch mission dedicated distribution centers, some cargo hauling mission, trading. Distribution centers are designed to be hubs for gameplay outside of cities. So eventually, when building interiors do come, there will be more missions with building interiors. But until then, distribution centers will be those mission hubs, where you will have, attack missions, defend missions, kill all missions. This type of stuff will happen in this much larger play space where there are, roads, there are different offices, there are production facilities, storage warehouses, landing pads, hangars. These are going to be absolutely huge. Yeah, it's creating traversable areas offering gameplay opportunities in corporate industrial environments. The initial release includes the surface levels of the facilities with underground areas coming in a later update. So that is a interesting addition to this, is that the distribution centers will be rolled out in kind of like a tier 0, tier 1 implementation. And this implementation that we're getting in 323 is the surface level of the distribution centers, with the deep underground tunnels where you go down the elevator. That will be coming later, so that is an interesting addition. But it essentially kind of clarifies that current UGFs probably aren't going away. There will still probably be the same UGFs there are now, where you will have kind of the opportunity to do the same missions, and then these distribution centers will just be new locations with new gameplay. So that is an interesting distinction to make with that, and I think that is kind of a good thing. I don't think the current the current UGFs, I don't think they need to go away. I think just adding the distribution centers to the roster of missions that players can take is a good thing. Then we have reputation hostility. This is something that I was talking about in the other video with how NPCs will interact with you depending on what you do. It's adding a feature to have a reputation system where players will encounter AI that are either friendly or hostile based on their reputation with the organization they belong to. Okay, this also includes different friendly fire thresholds and defense responses. So if you go into an area and you just start shooting NPCs to get the gear, they're probably not gonna like you, and next time you show up there, they're just gonna shoot on sight. And that's a good thing, because I think it enables different checks and balances to how the player base respond to the NPCs in the game and respond to other players as well. If you are a player, for instance, with a good reputation with a faction, you can kind of go to that location and they will protect you. If another bad player is following you, they will shoot at them, because of course that gang or organization has bad reputation with the bad player, and they don't want the bad player there at their settlement or outpost. So this is going to be a very interesting change to the game, and of course the reputation system is going to get more robust as time passes by. And it's not just something to punish pirates, but also something to punish players that are not in with whatever gang. So CIG kind of showed this off at a CitizenCon a long time ago, where a player had to kind of sneak into a location because they didn't have a good reputation with the gang. There was a player who had a neutral reputation with the gang, so maybe they had to pay some money to get in with the organization. And then there was a player who had a good reputation and just kind of walked into some locked off areas. So I think this is going to be something that adds to the progression of the game, depending on who you want to be in this universe, who you want to align yourself with. It's going to add consequence to the game that I think a lot of players are going to be excited about. Something that I'm excited about. So then we have the new player interaction experience. This is something that we saw on aUEC. This adds back that kind of the interaction dial, the wheel, You can set a primary and secondary action with this, which is huge. This is so, you know, if you might want the first action to equip the item, or the second action to use the item, and you can choose what you want, if it is to inspect the item or whatever, and so as you walk up to it, you just hit F and it does that thing, and it's just so much easier instead of going through a list of all of the options of the things that you could do with that item. It's just, you don't have to think about it. There are a lot of players that kind of question the ability to see all of these little UI elements floating around and being unimmersive. CIG basically said that, you know, there's a distance, you have to be close enough to the item to see that thing, and they're kind of playing with it, they're kind of balancing it out to see what works, what's kind of best. I think instead of having the whole UI item, you know, they could just put like a dot or a crosshair on the screen. But you know, obviously they want it to be very you know, approachable for new players and whatnot. I think you don't have to dumb it down too much. Most people that play Star Citizen are adults. I know obviously they, you know, they probably want younger people to play the game as well, but I don't think you need to tell the players, you know, hit F to use for every item. You know, you go through the tutorial, they show you hit F to use the item, and then after that, you know, just give us a crosshair, give us a little dot on the screen, kind of like when, you know, we have the elevator buttons. Just give us a little dot in the center of the screen, or a little crosshair when we can use that item, just so we know that, okay, this is the item we can use. I don't think we need the whole big, you know, box with an F in it and the word use on it for everything in the game. I think that's kind of excessive, but they're balancing it, they're taking a look at what works, what doesn't work, and this is going to be very interesting. I'm excited about it regardless. I think, you know, with everything on this list of features coming out, we're going to have to test it. We're going to have to take a look at it. I don't want to make any judgments right off of the bat. I want to get it in my hands and test it out. Last, we have master modes. This is big. I wasn't expecting this in 3.23. We'll see, you know, what iteration comes out with it. I believe this might be mostly for Arena Commander, implementing new modes to vehicles to manage their speed, components, and role-specific functions. This release introduces the nav and SCM mode, okay, as well as a complete retuning to all ships. Okay, CIG saying that this is happening. Get on board with it. There are some people who aren't on board with this. I think it's a good thing. I mean, obviously, I think the one thing that the PvP community is pushing back on is the loss of tricording, essentially giving you the ability to boost and, you know, get maximum acceleration by accelerating in you know, multiple directions at the same time. You can get maximum acceleration. I think people look at it in different ways because it has a very high skill ceiling. Okay, to be able to do that, it allows players who have additional skills to practice that, to be very good and you know, very effective in combat scenarios. But it also, you know, creates a gameplay perspective where everybody's just kind of zipping around, and that doesn't feel good to everybody, especially not new players. So CIG, what they want to do is they want to lower the skill floor a little bit, but there's still a lot of skill in there for, you know, skilled players to be able to do combat at low speeds, because it's at lower speeds, you can maneuver a little bit more. You can try to get a better position in combat to kind of change the tide of battle. Okay, and I think that we are gonna need like a longer PTU period with this patch. You know, I'm surprised we're not hearing more about it. We have, you know, I think they're saying they want to kind of target late April. It might get pushed back. There's just so many features to test out in PTU that I think it is going to be an interesting release cycle. But 2024 kicking off with a bang. This is big. This is really big. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. There's a lot of stuff that we covered in this video. It was a longer video, you know. Let me know if you want me to do a deep dive on any of these features. I know aUEC coming out will cover them a lot more in more detail. Right now, this was just kind of the roadmap roundup. I know I'm late on this one. Work has been really kicking my butt. It's been crazy. You know, I've been getting to it. A lot of stuff is coming up. I want to try to get in the game more and test out more of this stuff for you guys. But let me know what you guys want to hear me talk about in later videos. There's a lot to cover. I'm excited about it. I think 2024 is, you know, Jared called it the watershed year for Star Citizen. And if they keep putting up patches like this, I don't doubt it. So, yep, that's going to be it for me here today, you guys. Thanks for hanging out with me again. You guys are rock stars, supporting the channel, supporting the videos. I can't thank you guys enough. So, like I always say at the end of these videos, you guys, like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Salute.